Thank you. So, welcome to the first in a three-part series, Unlocking Energy Savings in Your Business, Energy Efficiency 101. I'm Jackie Donaldson, the Hub Coordinator for Green Economy Peterborough. We'll be speaking today with Clara Blakelock, GreenUP's Energy Program Manager, who will share with us the fundamentals of energy conservation and why it's important for your business, followed by a short presentation by Braden Clark, the Loans Manager at Community Futures Peterborough, on funding opportunities available through CFP. For those of you who haven't attended one of our events before, a bit about Green Economy Peterborough. Green Economy Peterborough, or GEP, as we call it, is a local program and network that supports local business leaders to reduce their environmental impact. Our program is designed to coach participating businesses through a series of steps to fulfill their greenhouse gas reductions, while our network is all about supporting each other, learning together, and celebrating our successes. We are a membership-based organization that recently introduced two new membership tiers. One is our Discover track that brings that sort of supports the green curious, as we say, and brings them into the loop, sharing information and learning opportunities. We have our Insight track, which is for those businesses who have the know-how but would like a measurement of their carbon footprint. While our members, our rock stars, as we call them, our lead track, have committed to more and working through a process to understand and reduce their greenhouse gas emissions through a supported process to measure, plan, and reduce their emissions. So we are one of 9 hubs in the Green Economy Canada network. A collective of business and organizational leaders that recognize the benefits, opportunities, importance of making a transition to a vibrant and low carbon future. We tap into each other's expertise and find sectors that are similar in other communities as ours, and really sort of share that learning, as it is a really blossoming and growing area that is sustainability. So you can see we've had 600 plus business members across Canada who have been engaged in this program, and we have reduced collectively 225,000 plus tons of greenhouse gas equivalent. So that's pretty super. Here are some of our smiling faces. Love these guys. And if you're a member and watching right now and you're not there, we'll get you out there. We just need to get your smiling mugs so that we can share who you are and your stories. These folks are from a broad selection of sectors, each have their own journey, reasons, steps for making a difference. They are all leaders in their own way. We call them green economy leaders, and they all have great stories to tell. Here we are collectively. One of the most important features of Green Economy Peterborough is that we are local. So we buy each other's products and services. We're business peers, we're neighbors, we're friends. We see each other around town at events in parks and sometimes on our bikes. And it's a great group, and we learn and work together. So here we go. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Clara Blakelock. She's GreenUP's Energy Manager. She is a registered energy advisor and a certified energy auditor in training, and has completed an advanced certificate in sustainable energy management and a master's of engineering and public policy. So over to you, Clara.
Thanks, Jackie. All right, just give me a second here to get my slides up. Oops. Go back to the beginning here. Okay, all right, can everyone see the slides? All right. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here and thanks everyone for joining me today. So as Jackie said, this is the first of a three-part series. You're welcome to attend all three or in any ones of them that you're interested in, but this is just the first one. And so we're calling it Energy Efficiency 101 in the Unlocking Energy Efficiency for Your Business series. And so I'm just going to kind of go over the basics of what you need to know about energy efficiency in your business. And we are a pretty small group here today, so I know we're going to have time for discussion at the end of after Braden's presentation. But if you do have questions, I'm totally open to pausing to answer questions as we go. So yeah, I was hoping that we could start off with some introductions that we can maybe do in the Oh, sorry. I have another slide on this. So I'll just go through the agenda first. We'll start with some introductions. Then I'll talk about why you should worry about energy in your business. We'll go through a little bit about how you can understand your energy bills, depending on how much time you spent looking at them. This will maybe new or not so new. And then we'll get into the principles of energy efficiency, which include reducing your energy waste, matching your business's energy use to your business's needs, improving efficiency and fuel switching. And then we'll talk a bit about how we can promote a culture of energy efficiency in businesses. And then, yeah, the question and discussion will be after Braden's presentation mostly. So yeah, if we could do some little introductions, if you want to type in the chat, if you're with a business, so your name, if you're with a business, what that business is, maybe how big the business is, how many employees, because I know that there's very different considerations depending on the size of business we're talking about here. And then if there's anything, specific that you're hoping to learn about today, you could share that as well. So I'll just give everyone a minute to open up that chat, type something in there so that we all get a sense of who's here in the room. Being pretty quiet in there. Here we go. So we're starting to see those messages come in. And so, yeah, maybe I will give people just a minute or two to keep reading those and looking at them, and then we'll move on. Okay, so as those continue to come in, I'll just continue with the presentation. So why should we worry about energy? Basically, there's two main reasons that I've sort of illustrated here in pictures. The first one, which is probably the most relevant to most businesses, is all about saving money. If you can reduce your energy costs, then you can increase your profits, and that's what businesses want to do. And so the whole idea behind energy management and energy efficiency is just about spending only what you need to on energy and not spending too much, not wasting, which is a pretty general principle of business and of life. These energy efficiency upgrades can pay you back, and you can actually do pretty accurate calculations to figure out how fast they will pay you back and if they fit within your business's economic plans. There are incentives available for some upgrades. I know, I guess Braden's going to talk a bit about the loan program that he's got, but there's some others as well that actually give you some cash back to help make those energy efficiency upgrades even look better against your bottom line. And then the other thing, that you can continue to count on is that energy costs are always going to go up, generally, not down. And so anything you can do to reduce your demand for energy and reduce your usage, then that could end up saving you even more over time as costs continue to increase. And then the next reason is about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's, you know, we have these targets at all levels of government, national and even globally, locally, municipally, provincially. We have many targets for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and they're all a little bit different. But overall, we are supposed to be reducing our emissions by about half by 2030 in general. And so that we might realize it's already 2025. That's not far away. So we have a lot that we need to do in the next few years collectively. And businesses can be a part of that for sure. There's a lot of talk about the carbon tax these days, and, people are for it, against it. But the very best way to avoid the carbon tax is by reducing the burning of fossil fuels. If you're not burning fossil fuels, you're not paying the carbon tax. And if you can save money while doing that, then why not, right? And then finally, people care about the environment. I mean, one thing I always say is it's pretty universal truth of humans that we all love our children, or children in general. And, we care about them and want them to do well. And customers care about that too. And environmental action can be used for promotion, and it's not greenwashing, or, if it's true, right? So if you're making a real commitment to reducing your greenhouse gas emissions, this can be something that you promote with your business, and it'll make people want to patronize you, people who love their kids, which is most of us. All right, so let's get into a little bit of details about energy in your business. So you may have been thinking about this a lot, or you may not have been thinking about it at all. And so that's why I'm starting with the basics. So most businesses, and I see there are some homeowners here as well. These things basically apply to homes as well. There's several different ways you're using energy in your business. So we have electricity. Everybody's using electricity pretty much. And what are the things that are using electricity? Well, lighting, anything that's plugged in, fans, motors. You may be heating with electricity. You may be heating your hot water with electricity, depending. You have to take a look at your equipment for that. Refrigeration, air conditioning. These are sort of the main electrical loads in most businesses. If you're in sort of a more urban area, you probably have natural gas coming into your business as well. And that's usually for heating and hot water are the primary. It could be cooking as well. I should have included that. If we're in a restaurant or something like that, you may be cooking with natural gas also. And these two are what I'm going to focus most of the presentation on. We're talking about the focus is mostly on buildings. But we also, of course, have transportation energy costs. So gasoline and diesel mostly. You might have electricity under that too if you've got electric vehicles. And then there are some other fuels. So if we're not connected to natural gas, you may be heating with propane or oil or even wood. And again, the principles are going to apply to any fuel type, but we're going to focus in this presentation on electricity and natural gas use, because that's the most common for more urban businesses. So let's start with electricity and your electricity bill. Everyone gets one at home at their business. And depending, you may spend time looking at it, or you may just pay it and not spend very much time analyzing it at all. So it's going to show a few things, and I actually have a picture of what a bill looks like coming up on the slides, but it's going to show your electricity usage in kilowatt hours. And this is something that, if you're interested in getting into this, would be a good idea to start tracking in some way. So looking at your electricity usage month to month, and actually Hydro One makes it pretty easy. They actually do this tracking for you if you want to log in online. You may see a demand charge in kilowatts. that depends on the type of business you are. So if you're a smaller business that's not using large amounts of electricity, you probably won't see this charge. But if you're using a lot, the demand charge is about how much power you're using all at once in your business. And you can actually see some great savings by if you're able to sort of spread things out and not use as much power all at once, because that saves money for the utility. And so you can saves money for you. You'll see some fixed monthly charges, and then you'll see your rate structure. So whether you have time of use pricing, you might have a tiered, oh, I said tired, tiered rate structure, where you're charged a certain rate up to a certain amount of electricity, and then another rate, usually a higher rate after a certain amount. Or they have a new pricing structure that's the overnight ultra low rate, where they give you a really low rate at nighttime, but then a higher rate during the day. And so by doing some analysis of how you're using electricity and when you're using it, you can actually figure out which of these rate structures might work the best for you. And Hydro One also has some calculators on there that can help you figure it out as well. So what does the bill actually look like when you get it? Here's the first page. So this bill, what I've circled here is at the top in the smaller circle is the electricity usage for this month in kilowatt hours. Of course, there's also the total of what we have to pay. And then it's sort of interesting because the bill, they actually do some of the analysis for you right here on the bill. And so if you just take a look at it, it's showing us how much electricity was used during this month compared to a month ago, and also compared to the same month last year. And so this is kind of interesting. This one right here is showing us that this month we used almost double the electricity that was used in the last month and in the same period last year. And so there can be different reasons for that, but it would be a reason to put up a flag there and say, something's going on here. Yes, maybe it was a colder month, and so if we're using electric heating, we might have had to use more power for that, but does it really make sense that we're using double the electricity, and what's different going on? And so that's something that by monitoring your bills, you can flag right away, and then hopefully reduce that electricity used for the next month and reduce your costs. So it's nice that Hydro One provides this here without you having to go into Excel and make any graphs or anything, go to any extra effort just by looking at your bill. And then here's the second page of the bill. And what I wanted to highlight here, it breaks down the cost a little bit more clearly, but what I'm highlighting here is the rate structure. So here, this business is on a time of use breakdown, and it's showing us the time of use periods, which are different in winter and summer, and it's showing us the different rates. So you can see that the on-peak rate is 15.8 cents per kilowatt hour compared to only 7.6 cents for the off-peak rate. So I think, time of use pricing has been around for a while, both residentially and commercially. And so we, at home, many of us became used to doing things like, running the dishwasher at night, running the washing machine at night when the electricity rates are cheaper. And there may be things like that you can do in your business as well. Or it may make sense to switch to a different rate structure where it's more of a tiered rate or the ultra low overnight rate if you can make use of those really cheap electricity rates. So next, most of businesses will also be getting a gas bill. And so that it's a little bit more straightforward than the electricity bill overall. I'm just going to check my time. Okay, we're doing okay. It'll show your gas consumption, which is measured in meters cubed, so a different unit than the electricity. It'll have some delivery charges, some fixed monthly costs. And I just wanted to flag here because it's not, we might not all necessarily know this, but in terms of your building's energy use, your natural gas use will be, in almost all cases, your largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. Natural gas is actually a fossil fuel. So we're bringing fossil fuels into our buildings and burning fossil fuels in the building. Whereas electricity, some of it is generated by fossil fuels still, but a lot of it is generated by non-polluting methods like hydro, solar, even nuclear doesn't emit greenhouse gas emissions in the same way that natural gas does. So you're If, depending what your main motivation is here, if your motivation is to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, then reducing your natural gas use is the best way to do that in your building. So here's a gas bill. This is actually a residential gas bill, but I think the business ones should look pretty similar. Just a couple things to note here. It's showing you the total natural gas that you've used in meters cubed. It also does, I don't have it on the slide here, but it does give you the same sort of comparators as the hydro bill. So it'll show you your gas usage month by month for the last year, actually, at the bottom of the bill in a little graph. But one thing to watch out for if you're really starting to monitor this carefully is that sometimes they will use an estimated reading for your gas use from Enbridge. So that's what I've circled here. It says estimated. They didn't actually come and read the meter. They just made a guess. And so this is not the actual gas use of this house. Eventually they will come and read the meter and correct it and give you a credit or make you pay more depending. But that's just something to flag if you're starting to monitor very closely your gas use month by month, that you can actually submit your own meter reading in most cases. But if you don't, then they will be estimating it some of the time. So just to like in any kind of energy assessment, and in the next presentation I get into, I'm going to talk more about how to actually do an energy assessment of your business for yourself if you want to. But generally, the first step is all about the bills and analyzing the bills. And so this is something that, you know, depending on your level of interest in looking at this, you can do a lot, you can do a little. So you can start, the very first step would be just to start looking at the analysis that's done on the bills itself. So Hydro One and Enbridge both provide you some graphs that show your usage over time, and you can get some information from that right away. But if you're really into it, there's a lot more that you can do, and you can download your data from Enbridge and Hydro One by logging in all different formats. So Hydro One actually offers hourly electricity data if you really want to get down into the details there. But you can do monthly as well. And sort of just, there's many things you can compare. You can see how your consumption changes year over year and month over month. Do you use more electricity in summer or is it in winter? How much of your consumption is electricity versus gas? Now you need to do some work to figure that out because gas is measured in a different unit from electricity, but you can find some conversions online to how to convert meters cubed into kilowatt hours and figure out, well, like for this business is using 45% of their energy is in gas and 55% is in electricity. How does outdoor temperature factor into it? So in most businesses, most buildings here, heating is a huge cost and a huge energy use, just because it takes a lot of energy to move the temperature up. You know, if we think about it on days like today, when it's minus 15 outside, we're changing the temperature by like 35 degrees between inside and outside, and that takes a lot of energy. So how much of your energy use depends on outdoor temperature? And then it also is going to depend on other factors. It could be production levels, your operating hours of your building. So if you change from, you know, only being open Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, and suddenly you're open on Saturdays as well, that's going to impact your energy usage and your energy costs. And the building occupancy, if you've got more people in the building, generally that means more energy use. So there's lots of different ways that you can analyze your bills. And yeah, you can start small and go more in depth if you're so interested. So I think the next thing I have, I think, is a video. Oops. So I'm just gonna pause here for a minute and I think it's playing. Okay, hang on. I'm just gonna pause here before I start the video and just take a look at the chat. Okay, it doesn't look like we have questions here. It's all just introductions. Does anyone have any questions before I move on? I'll just have a little pause here, and you can also speak up if you would like. All right, well, I'll keep going then. So before I play the video, this is just, Jackie found this video for me. It's from Save on Energy, which is the which is the name of the rebate program for electrical savings from the IESO, the electricity distribution system. And it's just a really inspiring example of a business that made a real commitment to energy efficiency and saw some excellent savings from that. And, it is a bit of a larger business. So depending on, if you're thinking about your business, they're talking about saving millions of dollars in energy costs. We may not be talking about that in all businesses, but these opportunities exist in all businesses for sure. And so it is about 3 minutes long, but I'm going to play it now. And then we'll get into talking about those basic principles of energy efficiency.
Is made up of a bunch of really friendly people. These are my neighbors, my friends that I've worked with for 20 plus years. They are craftsmen. One of our biggest challenges is making sure that we can keep our full-time production technicians employed. So we're always looking at what can we do? How can we change? When we started looking at our energy, we knew we needed to do something.
There was a lot of things that needed to be taken into consideration, what was worth fixing and what wasn't, and what we were going to do going forward. And one of the things that we knew right from the get-go is that we were spending a pile of money here on energy.
So we set ourselves a goal saying we're going to save 10% on our total energy.
We've talked about how do we get people involved, what do we need to do to raise awareness.
We do have a 12-month return on investment policy. At the beginning looked like there's no way that there's ever going to be a payback on a lot of these projects.
We're going to do some crazy things or something a little bit different, and this is what I'd like to try. So I said, go get 12 cans of foam, and Saturday afternoon we're going to have crack patrol. He kind of looked at me and I said, what? I said, we're going to do crack patrol. We're going to get the managers from each one of the departments, and we're going to walk around and we're going to look for cracks, and we're going to fill them with foam. And people are going to ask us what we're doing, and we're going to explain to them what's going on, but it's going to raise the awareness with everybody on the floor that it's important, that it doesn't matter who you are, we need to be focused on it.
It actually sparked conversation on energy and what we were trying to do. Sealing the building envelope with the foam was just one of many things. We relamped the entire plant. We put in a sequencer, new controls on some of our presses. We've put in some fans and educating our technicians to save money.
We knew what we wanted to do to get there. We just weren't sure at the end of the day whether all of those ideas were going to get us to our 10% goal. At the end of the first year, we had some pretty shocking news. At the end of 2013, we were not able to achieve our goal of 10%. And it was when we rolled up all the numbers, we actually saved 30%. Give or take, we saved about $250,300,000 in energy in 2013. Half of that came from changes and improvements that we made in the facility and in the operations, and the other half came from people.
Next year, we did end up saving another 30% on top of that.
We're not talking about $10,000. We're not talking about $50,000. We're talking about millions of dollars here in savings. I would have told you in 2012, there isn't $1 million to be saved. It's not possible. We can't do it. Even if we changed over everything and spent whatever dollars it was on doing it, that we weren't going to be able to achieve the savings that we achieve today. So if you can get even half of the people in your organization focused, working in the same direction, be unstoppable.
All right. So yeah, I know that Jackie and I found that video quite inspiring. So I hope you did too. Yeah, and so it's a great example of a business that really took this on in a big way and really saw some great results. And so we'll get into here next. How you can do that too, how you can get started. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, we're not getting into all the details in this presentation of exactly what energy saving upgrades you're going to be doing in your business. That's more for the future presentations. But here we're just talking about the principles. But you can start thinking about it for sure in your business right away. So the three main principles: reducing energy waste, matching your energy outputs to your business needs, and then improving your equipment efficiency and potentially fuel switching to a less polluting energy source. So reducing energy waste. I mean, reducing waste in general is just a good thing to do. Waste is waste. So what are you looking for in that? You're looking for equipment? Can it be turned off when it's not being used? Are you heating the outdoors? So that's what they're talking about with that crack patrol and sealing off of these leaks. It applies in homes, it applies in buildings too. I picked this picture for this slide because you can see the lines on the church roof there. That's caused by what's called thermal bridging. It's the heat escaping through the rafters of the church and heating the outdoors. Are we regularly and proactively maintaining our equipment, whether that's the building operation systems or production equipment? Because we all know that everything runs better when it's regularly maintained and it runs more efficiently and uses less energy. And then can you get clues from your bills? So just like in that example that I showed, the first one, the electricity bill, where we saw a spike in electricity use, that is an indication that there might be some energy waste going on, some new energy waste. And so we need to do a bit of analysis there to figure out what it is. I think in this case, it was perhaps over-ventilation, which is something I'm going to talk about in future slides and presentations. So just some examples of what we might be looking for when we're looking for energy waste. As I mentioned before, lights or other equipment left on all the time. Over-ventilation. So ventilation is where we're bringing fresh air into a building, and most sort of commercial spaces require ventilation because they don't have natural ventilation through, windows that open or things like that. But anytime you bring in fresh air, you have to heat it up, right? Especially in the wintertime, or cool it down in the summer. And so you want to bring in just the right amount of fresh air for people to be comfortable and have healthy air quality, but you don't want to bring in too much, because if you're bringing in too much, then that's an example of energy waste. You're heating up more outdoor air than you need to. So doors that are frequently open to heated space means heat is just allowing heat to escape to the outdoors. That's an example of energy waste. If we have windows that are regularly open in winter, maybe you're heating with radiators where you don't have good control over the temperature. It's getting too hot. People are cracking the windows. That's an inefficient way to heat. Generally, air leaks in the building. If you're heating unoccupied areas, there's an example of energy waste. I mean, you might need to heat them to some extent, but you need to heat them all to the same temperature as occupied areas. And if you've got simultaneous heating and cooling going on in your business, that is generally an example of energy waste. So yeah, the next principle is really about identifying your needs and what you're trying to achieve. And just a reminder that, nobody's using electricity or natural gas because they want to. You're using it to achieve something. You're using it to get a comfortable space, to get adequate lighting, to get fresh air into your building. And so what you want is to understand what your needs are and then figure out how to use the least amount of energy to accomplish those needs. Yeah. So next we get into what I think most people think about when they think about, building retrofits or improving efficiency, which is upgrading your equipment, it is a part of it. But it's also just about planning for those upgrades. So understanding what equipment you're using now, what is heating your building now, how old is it, how efficient is it, how long is it expected to last, and when will you need to plan for replacement? If you are a building owner, that is. If you're not owning the equipment, then that would be on the responsibility of the building owner in most cases. So yeah, we're talking about boilers, rooftop units, hot water tanks, chillers, production equipment. so that you can plan for those longer term upgrades and do that cost benefit analysis to be able to calculate, well, if instead of replacing this piece of equipment with the same equipment that's the same efficiency, if we were able to improve the efficiency by 10-15%, you can actually calculate pretty easily what the cost savings would be over time. So even if the cost upfront is a little bit higher, you're going to make those savings back in operating costs over time, and especially when incentive programs are available as well, which I will get into possibly on the next slide. I'm not at some point further on. So you can get these things in your plans. You're not going to invest in all of them at once, but just so that it's there, you're thinking about it. Right here. So here we do have some incentive programs. So there are incentive programs. So Save on Energy, that was where the video came from. It's the electrical, the IESO is where that money comes from. And so they have a number of programs for small business and for larger businesses. And you can look at their website there to check those out. So they have lighting upgrade rebates. They have the Peak Perks program, which is really just about reducing demand for electricity during those the highest demand times, usually in the summertime. So it allows them to, turn down your thermostat a couple of degrees in your air conditioner, and they'll just give you some money for doing that. And then they do have retrofit programs as well. And Enbridge, if you're on natural gas, Enbridge also has some programs and incentives for building retrofits. And they're kind of, they have a lot of different things. In the end, they're kind of flexible. You sort of give them a proposal of what you want to do and what you expect the energy savings to be. And then they'll give you an incentive based on how much energy savings you're expecting to see. So just to talk a little bit about fuel switching, as I mentioned earlier, electricity produces far fewer emissions than natural gas or other fossil fuels. And so if you're thinking about equipment upgrades or changing equipment, and your goal is in particular is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, then switching from gas equipment to electric equipment is often the best way to do that. And there are ways to do that while also increasing efficiency. And those are mostly to do with heat pumps. So heat pumps provide both heating and cooling. They are moving heat instead of generating it. And so they're very highly efficient. Now, they're not going to work in all circumstances for all buildings, but we do see them popping up around town in lots of places these days. This is a picture of a heat pump that I took around in Peterborough recently. And then there are also heat pumps available for water heating. But if you are looking at heat pumps for like an entire large building, that's going to involve some more advanced planning. Well, any kind of heat pump really involves some planning, but it's something to consider.
Claire,
Yeah.
You have a question that might be good to answer now, just because you're talking about heat pumps. George is asking about heat pump technology and cold climate.
Yeah, sure. So actually, yeah, heat pump technology has come a long way, and they do actually work really well in cold climates. For homes, they're becoming incredibly popular. And I know Bryn and I in our work as energy advisors have seen many people putting in heat pumps. And yeah, they can generate heat down to -20 or even below these days, and they do work very well. Often there is a backup source of heat for the very cold temperatures, but they do work really well. I know in my house, I've been heating with a heat pump all winter and have not had to use a backup source of heat. So it has come a long way. Okay, so fostering a culture of energy efficiency. I think that was one of the things that really stood out for me in that video as well, that we watched, is how important it was. They said about half the savings came from the technological upgrades that they did, and half of them came from people and people's behavior. And so by fostering a culture of energy efficiency in your business and bringing in your staff, whether you have 1 or 2 staff or you have 100 or 1,000 staff. Somebody said they're with Kami and they have 1,000 staff. So whether you're talking about a very small business or a larger one, you can work on fostering a culture of energy efficiency so that people are suggesting measures to reduce waste to you. You can be adding energy items to regular staff meetings, creating that staff green team, whether it's, it might be just one person, it might be everybody in the business if you have a small business with just a few staff. And you can talk about things that are more than just energy in that. So we can be looking at waste, water, transportation. There's lots of things to look at. And tracking those energy bills, flagging any increases and your efficiency wins so that you can be really proud of what you're able to accomplish in terms of lowering your energy bills and your emissions. So that I'm coming to the end of my presentation here. So I just wanted to leave you with a couple of takeaways, so something to do moving forward as you think about how you're going to start working on energy efficiency in your business. So the first takeaway would be to pull out those energy bills and look at them. So look at those graphs that Hydro One and Enbridge provide for you on your bills. How has your usage changed over time? Do you see any spikes? Can you figure out what they came from? And then the second thing would be to think about one thing that you could do to start fostering a culture of energy efficiency in your business, whether it is just putting the energy item on the next staff meeting, putting up a sign to recruit people for a green team, something like that. So just those two things that I want you to take away. And then perhaps if you join me for the next in the series, we might have some time to talk about them and see if anyone had any good insights about that.